Can you, in the interest of time here, can you give me one use case for your organization that you're pursuing, and maybe a Gen AI use case, right? It could be a business problem, anything that you're working on. So here's a really important use case, and we're going to use AI to help us solve this problem. And I'm going to start with you, Mubina.
Thank you. So, because we are a research-based organization, our scientists can go out and within one season can bring back 80 terabytes of either sonar or imagery data. So it's not just an AI problem, it's a large data sets problem as well. But the use case that we are working on is we are working on, if it's a drone data that our scientists bring in terms of raw data, how do we parse through that drone data or ROV-based data, go through that video and pick out specific species that our scientists are interested in to encourage biodiversity, to ensure that the ecosystem is there for those specific species to thrive. So that's our use case that we are actively pursuing right now, and leveraging AI instead of initially, a human used to sit through and go through that entire video footage and point out. Now we are looking to leverage, build large learning models behind it so that we can run that imagery and it can automatically be picked by the technology. Maybe next time when we are here, I can share the success of it.
How far have you got on that?
We have established the contract with Esri. We have designated a space on AWS, defined the architecture, and we are ready to go.
All right. Well, next year you'll move on to like 5 or 6 others. So yeah. Joe, what about you? You have a use case you want to highlight?
I think with generative AI, the obvious use case is kind of writing, right? Like HR, they're doing some job description, those kind of experimentations. But I think certain things on the technical work, I'll give an example. We're in the process of upgrading SAP, right? That's a massive effort. And on the data side, the previous version in terms of the or so-called data enablement, we rely on the called HANA view. Basically, it's kind of XML-based view, and we need to migrate to the new version, S4, which is more SQL-based, right? We actually tried with ChatGPT Plus. You can upload the XML to say, okay, like convert to the new version. It did I would say, okay job in the sense that actually gave you some output. Certainly, like it's not readily available or basically usable, right, to change to the new version. But I do see some potential, right, with the advancement of say GPT-4, 5, or whatever the next version. I think those are the area potentially can.
So are you using it in your data conversion?
I would say more kind of data structure.
Data structure?
Yeah. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely has potential there.
Yeah. A lot of these large upgrade projects can be, if AI could help us with those, it would save us a lot of money and time, for
Absolutely.
sure. Yes. Sarah?
Yeah. So for us, our Department of Transportation is doing wildly innovative things with AI. Generally machine learning models, right? But if you're asking specifically about generative AI, we do have some kind of pilots that are running right now. One of which is our Department of Construction and Inspections are working to get developed a generative AI solution that will help in training and onboarding professionals with the stack of code around what is, building code, right? I don't know, it changes all the time. It's very dense. It's not my world, but I don't know what size rebar you're supposed to use for a tower. But that type of thing, right? So using it internally to say, hey, can we expedite finding a response to this customer's inquiry, right? Without having to go through either having institutional knowledge because you answer this question 100 times, or fiddling through the stacks and stacks of code requirements, right? So they're working on building a retrieval augmented generation system that kind of points to the source of where they're pulling the information that's getting generated and its outputs to try to help expedite, ultimately, responses to customers who call in asking questions about what's the rule on this for the building code.
I love that. Anybody else love that? That's not a great use case. Give us one more from your DOT. You said they were doing wildly innovative stuff. That I want to hear about wildly innovative stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's been a whole bunch of media on it. They have some grant funding for some of this work as well. They are using classification machine learning models that count and classify objects. So it does a couple of things, right? And they're using it with their existing cameras, like CCTV cameras that they have to help traffic flow. They're taking that data, funneling it through these models, and it's useful for a couple of reasons, right? It enables them to not have to go lay pneumatic tubes that count every time something goes across, right? Which is really important from not only an efficiency perspective, but also from a sightline perspective, right? Things that are for help protect the safety of the employees that would go lay those tubes and where it's not very visible, right? Where they have to go do that work in the field. So, and they're having pretty good success with that. They're also using that same type of machine learning technology to take that same information and say, there's a group of people, right, who are crossing the street versus one person or something like that to try to drive toward, can we detect near misses, right? Can we add timing to the crosswalk signal if there's a bunch of people crossing versus one person crossing, right? And so they're classifying the types of objects that are at intersections with these tools to say, we need to have a longer crosswalk period, right? And ultimately, explore what that looks like for automatically managing traffic signals and things like that. So,
All right.
yeah.
Excellent. That's. Okay, let's see. I think we have, so I'll ask you to be a little bit brief on this one because I have one last question that really will spark your interest. Discuss your data management strategy. And how important that is when you're talking about AI.
It's really foundational, right? I would really be brief. One example, when we're looking at, say, Copilot for M365, I think it doesn't necessarily require you to drastically change your data management process, but at the same time, it would amplify all the problem you have, right? If you have the permission, everything is not setting right. Now, like with generative AI, everything is magnified. I think those are the concerns we're having. So having really clear guideline around data governance, data management becomes really foundational for the generative AI use.
Do you have a data management program?
We do.
Do you have a chief data officer?
Yeah, I would thank say our CIO Daniel Key, the foresight, right, to have the position so that we get ready for the.
Oh, you don't have a chief data officer.
What's that?
You don't have a chief data officer.
We do.
Oh, okay.
And so I have a hard time confessing it's him.
Oh, it's you. That's why you should have read your bio, Joe. You have a great chief data officer. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Mubina. How's your data management strategy at Department of Fish and Wildlife?
Again, I'm glad we are not the only one in the data silo and dark data repository opportunity statement. What we are doing right now is we are standing up an enterprise-wide data and analytics platform
Fantastic.
that can set the policies of a top-down and bottom-up approach of how the exec steering committee direct the council, who direct the operational group, and yet operational group is the one who comes up with the problem statements and how they communicate it up. How do we, in that one, how do we leverage AI and machine learning type of capabilities? I am going to talk about less about what we have to do. One request for our vendors who are here is that based on data transfers and data traffic flow and ingress and egress costs, partner with us and with the other vendors that you have and provide us an optimal solution, because that's what almost every one of us is going through right now, is that, okay, if we store the data here or on the cloud and I start using another application, is my cost going to way sky high? How do we leverage and make sure that these technologies are adopted and used? And we look forward to partnership with the vendors.
That's a great point. Great point. Thank you. Okay, Sarah, data management or privacy, whatever you want to talk about.
Yes. So I think that for us, driving more toward this AI space over the last year, right, and really familiarizing ourselves, trying to put the wheels on the bus as we drive it a little bit, I think it has raised a whole bunch of questions and is forcing the conversation around, wow, what do we need to do in the data management space to make sure that we can move forward in the AI space, right? So the SDCI and policy and code example, right? Part of the conversation of that is code changes all the time, right? All the time. So it's nice to have a tool built and handed off for use for a short amount of time, right? But then it becomes a question of data quality, right? Because who's going to make sure that data is updated, and therefore the system is outputting updated recommendations and content, right? That is in alignment with the most recent code standards. So it's kind of forcing the conversation around, yes, costs, yes, all of those things, whereas the storage, but also around how do we really wrap our arms around data quality in an ongoing and sustainable way, right? Because we don't want to just use something and then let it go stale on the shelf, right? Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing support model that we're really having to try to grapple with. So. Yep.
I think it's so important that we start to mature our data management programs. AI can't stand alone. We need the foundations there for it. Okay, so here's the last question. So we're here in 2030, and you're part of this panel again. 2030.
Let me put my imagination hat on.
Yes. How has AI changed your organization? What does it look like? And you got 30. I'll give you each 30 seconds.
Then I'll take so not just the front office, back office, but the services we provide. We are a public sector organization. We are not driven by the bottom line or profit margins, right? Our success threshold is the service we provide to our public, the quality of service we provide to our public. So making it more easier for our public to utilize our tools to leverage the land and the environment that is more sustainable, more biodiverse, more eco-friendly, and our back offices are more efficient, and people are using the technology, and yet we don't get to see the downside or the sprout of security concern. So that's what
You're handling the friction in the back, right? You're handling the friction. Great answer. Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would
2030.
I think I would say much the same way. I think there's so much opportunity around efficiency generation within government itself, but also understanding like that trickles down to the services we provide, right? And I think that we can hopefully move forward in a way that not only improves the services that we provide to constituents, but also in a way that makes sure we're addressing potential risks on the front end so that we're minimizing any unintended harms, right? Because people often don't have a choice when they interact with government, right? You need light, you need water, you need these types of utilities, right? And so making sure that we're approaching this in a responsible way and delivering and improving the services that we provide to people. So much the same.
Joe, 30 seconds.
Definitely.
Close us down.
Agree, right? I think that's where we're talking about transformation. I do think there's the opportunity to do that and say 20, 30, 6 years. And at that point, like every probably job or staff will have AI assistant, right? Like
there you go. There you go. AI assistant.
Yeah, day-to-day work, and even potentially, really, we have a public-facing AI agent or assistant that the resident can kind of tap into and utilize the capability, right? To say like AI powered city operations.
Yep. We'll each have a digital twin. Who will be here? We don't really know. Okay, well, can you all give us a great round of applause to our panelists?